Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to look at the 6.5 release notes. So just quickly looking at the items that were released here. We've got the beginning of the API or public API opening up. There's a new service for enterprise clients, and there's some improvements and additions to the custom reporting. So a little shorter list this round, but obviously the API is a big deal, so that's obviously going to take a lot of development time. So let's dive into the release notes. So the first one we'll look at here is the custom reporting. So first off, this is under the a beta flag. So if you go to your little gear icon, beta features, just make sure you turn on improved customer reporting. Otherwise, these features we're going to look at won't be available. Two things that happen when you turn this on. There's going to be an improvement of the speed, the performance of reports. Since this is only on trial sites at the moment, I don't have any large data sets to sort of show you the speed differences on. And the other main thing is that date fields, whenever you're using like a filter that has a date field, so like a submission date or a creation date, the value field will become a date picker rather than just a text string to add that date in manually. So that makes entering the dates a lot easier and more accurate. So that's the first thing that happens. And then more specifically, we have two new filters or filter options. So if we head to reports, custom reports, and let's say I want to look at events. So I want to do a report on my event bookings. So basically I've just set up events to contacts and event bookings. The fields, let's turn off all those. Let's just do first name, and I want to get all the event details into the report. And under filters, so previously we might have been able to do something like, let's say we wanted to get a report on just one specific event. So we could come down to the event name perhaps, and we'd say equals, and we could choose a specific event. So we might do this seek test event that I have, save, and that would of course give us a report for all the bookings for that particular event. But let's say we wanted a report on 3 events, 2 or 3 events in the one report. We couldn't actually do that, so you would have to run multiple reports, save multiple reports, and do them separately. So that's where the in condition comes in handy now. We can change equals to down here. We have in, and now we can choose a whole bunch of values. So we can see all our events here. I can choose this test one as well and click add, and it adds it to the list of values. So I can go on and continue selecting all the event names that I want to include in this report. So, and just a note here, when you select one, let's say we select this trial date, if you haven't added it, you haven't made it appear down here in these list of values, then that won't actually apply. You have to click add. Just a little gotcha there that may stump some people. Even if you click save, if it's just listed here, it's not actually going to be applied. It needs to come down into this section here. So save that, and then when we go to the results, we'll see that over here in the event name column, we've got seek test events, we've got the test event, and I don't believe there are any for that other one that I selected. Oh yeah, new event 2, so that's there as well. So all 3 of those events are being pulled into this report now. And then inverse to that, we have the not in, which is basically the opposite. So that's our second condition filter we have. So basically it will run a report on all the events except the ones that we've selected here. So I would expect probably not to get any results in this case, yeah, because there are no other event bookings in my test site. But yeah, so very helpful conditions there to run a bigger report rather than having to do multiple separate ones. And then, so going down to here, the other item that we have in reports now is a slight change. This one's a little confusing, but just a slight change to the order status. So if we were running a report on orders, so let's just do this one. So contacts and orders, let me just change that to all forms. And in our filters, we could choose the order status. So we have order status type now and order status. So the difference with these is subtle, but basically the order type is the actual defined type that the status is. So whether it's a purchase succeeded or paid or a custom type, and the order status is the actual name assigned to that status. So why it's confusing is because in most cases the order status type and the order status name are the same. The only places where it isn't is if you have a custom one. So the order status type would be custom, and the order status name would be whatever name you've given that custom status. But we can't actually create additional statuses, as of this video anyway, for those other predefined or built-in status types. So the status type and the status name for the built-in order statuses will always be the same, basically. So really this only comes into play with the custom statuses, if that makes sense. So I think previously we just had the status name, so you could just pick which status. But essentially now this allows us, you might want to run a report where you just want to get all orders that have a custom status type. So there might be several different statuses that you've created for that custom type, but you can get a report that covers all of those rather than having to choose one specific status of the order. So hopefully I explained that well enough. And then lastly, that just describes the restrictions for it if you don't turn on the beta flag, as I mentioned. So yeah, if you want to play around with the custom reporting, just make sure you turn on the beta flag for this particular version. Then coming down, so I think I mentioned this is just the actual improvements. When you turn on that beta flag, just the reports are going to be faster, the speed of reports, and the date picker fields that I mentioned before. Okay, and now that special sort of enterprise feature that has been talked about is around server monitoring and additional server resources in terms of server performance, like adding additional servers, like load balancing type scenarios. So at the moment, I don't have any access to the demo of this, but I can show some screenshots here. So I believe this. So basically we'll have kind of like this analytics dashboard look that will give us a look at the base server. So that's just the base server that runs the website. You can see the stats with that. And then there might be additional servers if you've requested those to support. So obviously there'd be additional costs for these sorts of things. Now I believe Alex is going to present more information about this and go into more details about how you go about getting this activated for your particular site, pricing, and how that's all going to work. For now, this is just sort of the introduction to it. So basically, you're going to be able to schedule like additional server resources or an additional server to take the load over a period of time, like a date and time, and you can schedule multiples of those. So obviously, if you're running a marketing campaign or an email launch or something like that, and you want to just give that site that extra boost because there's going to be a higher volume of traffic or something like that you're expecting, you can set up these extra servers to take that load. So there's some more detail in the actual notes here, but basically you're able to set up, let me have a look here. If you click on the calendar here, it'll bring up this sort of schedule that you can set various timeframes for the additional servers to run. And there's a few rules about what the minimum time is and how things can be stacked together and all that sort of things, which you can read through. But basically that's the idea of it. You can add these server allocations to give your site that extra coverage in those high peak volume times that you may be expecting. So as I mentioned, Alex will probably demonstrate more on that in the following days. Okay, and then next we have the public API opening up. So at this stage, it's just been opened up for orders specifically, and just these three sort of API endpoints for retrieving a list of orders, getting a single order, the data for a single order, or updating a particular order. So it doesn't look like you're able to create orders as yet with the API, but more retrieve and change order information. So at this point in time, there's a link here to sort of a Google document that has the API information in there. So down here, we've got all the sort of the specifications on how you might structure the requests and what information you're going to get back with the response. So that's just in the document here, and that'll be added to the Treepl documentation shortly once we get the layout structured to present this. So that's there. Then we have the actual API set up in the admin. So under settings, down to API applications, this is where you can actually add or create the API connections. So we could create new, just give that a name, whatever your application is, or a descriptive name. And then that will generate the client ID. And when you click it back into that, it will give you both the client ID and the client secret, so for using in your application. Then once you have those, there's further information again down here about how to retrieve the actual access token and the authorization to connect to the API. So that's all detailed there, along with all the error codes and whatnot that you may need to deal with. Okay, so again, that's just opened up for the orders at the moment, and I assume in coming releases we'll see more and more API endpoints being opened up. Okay, and lastly, we just have a bug fix, which is to do with an issue with front-end submitted custom module items, where apparently if you had a media field and that was left blank, it would override any existing data in that media field. So that looks like that bug is being fixed. Okay, thank you for watching.